Right now, thousands of brands are pouring more money into Meta whilst quietly scaling themselves into a loss. And the worst part of all, their ROAS is looking absolutely amazing all the way down. For those of you that don't know, my name is Andy Gray. I've helped over 150 e-commerce brands scaling through revenue plateaus ranging from 30K a month all the way up to 7 figures. And this is the mistake that I see time and time again. Brands are unable to break through broken unit economics, misattribution, and it's costing them a lot of money. So before you add a single pound of ad spend extra in your account, I need you to check these 3 things to make sure that your money is working better for you. And I'm going to give you all 3 in the video. So let's start with number 1, that is lying to everyone. Now, most brands scale on the ROAS that's staring back at them in the ads manager. And I get it. It's easy. You can see a number, you can make a decision, and we like to think that we're in control of what we're seeing. But we're not. The platform's taking credit for sales that would have happened anyway. And when you increase your budget in line with those sales that would have happened anyway, all you're doing is you're diluting your profit margins and you're giving more money to Meta along the way. So the moment you add more on top, you're not scaling into profit. You're actually eroding your margin, which means you're scaling into a lie. And what we want to do is build a foundation where every dollar we're putting into the account is adding to our bottom line of our business, because that's what true performance is. And this is where brands and marketers get lazy. They never check which numbers are real and which numbers are not, because there's a misaligned incentive. Marketers want to show the best ROAS possible to indicate that they're doing the best job, whereas actually the truth always comes out in a wash. And this is what you need to be looking out for. So here's an account that we're currently auditing, and one of the things that we instantly notice with the account is we look at an Advantage shopping campaign that's a sale campaign. There's quite a lot of spend already the last 30 days. So in the last 30 days, spending around £150 a day. And you can see at the top level, when we break down performance, actually looks quite good in terms of the overall ROAS in the account. So 4.65 across the account. We can see that there's campaigns here at 5.95, 6.18, 5.64. So everything is looking really, really strong. But the question is, why would the brand come to us that they're actually struggling for growth despite strong platform numbers? Well, this is what we need to be looking at. So the first thing that we've got to do is we've got to explore the breakdown function within Meta, and there's a function called audience segment. So what this is going to do is it's going to break down how the performance is being delivered. So within these campaigns, we know that they're kept broad, which is what we want to do. But then within this, we start to see the pieces unravel. So the campaign here with 5K of spend, we can see that there's a purchase ROAS on this campaign of 5.9. So pretty good. But as we start to break it down, we start to see that the numbers don't quite add up. So we have 3K of spend going to new customer audiences at a 2.93 ROAS. So we're spending 3K to make 9, and all the campaign performance here is largely being propped up by the existing customer segment, where we can see that from 1.5K of spend, we've generated over 166 purchases, which is £20,000 in revenue. So that 5.95 is largely being driven by non-incremental revenue, so customers that are probably on your newsletter that would have bought anyway. And what we see as the golden test is the event effect of CRM send. So what we always try to look at is what days of the week are the brands running their CRM campaigns, and how does that tie in with the advertising account performance. And in cases where we see misattribution or over-indexing on existing customers, they tend to have the best days either the day of the CRM send or the day after the CRM send. Not a coincidence. It's just CRM propping up the sales and then Meta stealing the credit for it. And we're able to actually go down into this another layer. So what we can do is just picking this one campaign in particular, we can drill down now. So we have a feeling that this isn't incremental. So what we want to do now is start to look at our attribution settings. So if we fire in the 1-day view, 1-day click, 7-day click, what we start to see here is from a lot of these purchases for the existing customer segment, we start to see that the majority of these are happening. So 53 out of 166 are happening with a 1-day view. So people are just seeing a pixel of an ad in the feed and Meta's taking credit for it. And then we also see 113 of those conversions are actually happening within 7 days of clicking. So again, it's very, very unlikely that it's the ads driving the performance. Conversely, when we look at the 1 day click of the new customers, 1.73 to 2.93, so quite close to each other. So certainly not that massive gap of 5.7 and 13.4 that we see from 1 day click to the 7 day click, 1 day view attribution on the existing segment. Now you've kind of started to understand what it is that we shouldn't be doing. What I then want to talk about is like really simple ways that you can actually start to understand the impact of your advertising on driving new customer acquisition. And one of the really, really simple trackers that I love is just a really simple spreadsheet. So what we can do here is we can export all of our media data coming out of Google, Meta, TikTok, Snapchat. And then what we're able to actually look at is the number of new customers, new customer orders, which is exported by Shopify. And then what we can start to look at is actually working out an NCPA off the back of this. So we can see here, last couple of days, we're down under £40 for our NCPA, which is a great signal that the account is acquiring new customers. And actually we're in target because we know that these customers are generally spending 120 to 150 pounds. So that's giving us a really, really good ROI on our media investment. And we can scale into this comfortably because we know that actually when we look at the NCPA, we're making a good level of profit on the account. And really the golden rule behind all of this is that you can't scale your way out of a measurement problem. So all that you're doing when you have this misattribution or generous attribution to existing customer segments, when you plow more money into the platform, your media becomes less efficient, the less retention it has to steal. So it will reach a plateau whereby there's no more retention to steal to make the numbers look positive. And that's generally where brands will say, hang on, alarm bells, we should pull back our spend here because actually we're really unprofitable. But you've never been profitable all along. The reporting and the way that the platforms are showing you performance has just hidden this from you. And it's only when you try to push the lever that this becomes more obvious in your account, and then you pull back off that. Now, quick one before we move on to the second check. If any of these feelings are familiar to you, and you'd like us to have a look at your account and find out where it is that you're bleeding money or why it is that you're unable to scale, there's a link down below for you to book a call in with our team. We carry out a comprehensive analysis, not just of your ad account, but of your unit economics to really understand the growth models behind your business so that we're then able to give you some strategic direction that you need to get your brand back on track and growing to the levels that you dreamed of. And honestly, if you're spending 30K or more a month on ads, it's always really useful to get a second opinion into the structure, into the growth model, and just to confirm some of those lingering doubts that you may already have and have them put into words and have data paint the right pictures for you. So now we've got to the point that our numbers are clean, which is amazing. And most brands do the obvious thing then. Once they have faith in the numbers, they begin to do the thing that comes the most easily, which is increase the budget and spend more on the ads that are working right now. And initially it'll feel really, really good because you will get some performance. And those ads are on fire, so you pour more money in and the brand is scaling. And then all of a sudden you're plowing more and more budget into broader audiences, which means that the algorithm starts to burn through your winners much, much faster. And your account is so dependent on those winning creatives. When they start to fatigue, you've got a real problem. Your CPMs climb, your frequency comes up, and then the account fatigues. And we're not talking about something that creeps up in months. This happens in the space of days. You go from having great performance to really struggling for performance at elevated spend levels because you simply left advertising running for too long and the algorithm is telling you that you need to change it up. So because Meta is craving that creative volume and creative diversity, when your campaigns are only scaling on 1 or 2 creatives, there is so much risk involved with that. And if you don't feed it the right way, it starts to pick off the same audience pools time and time again until you run out of those audiences and your account performance starts to drop. So the brands that are able to achieve continuous scale and volume aren't the ones that are just spending more. What they're actually doing is they're testing more creative in line with the budgets that they're applying. So what we've done to really give brands the right steer on how much creative they need to be running is two different things. So the first thing that we're looking at within every account is we're trying to get a picture of creative risk. And the way that we look at that is this metric here, which is how much of the account's budget is being spent on fresh creative. So creative that is less than 3 months old and sometimes shorter, and how much of that budget in the last 30 days has been spent on creatives that are less than 3 months old. And what you can see here is that less than 19.4% of the overall budget has been spent on creatives that have been launched in the last 90 days. So last 30 days spend, 80% of the budget has been spent on creative that is older than 90 days, which is not a good recipe for success. We know that ads fatigue. We know that Meta wants us to cycle creative in roughly every 10 days. And what you start to see here is that actually the account's efficiency is struggling off the back of that. So once we have an overview of the landscape of the ads that we're working with, we then want to start to drill down into how do we go about setting the plan for how much creative volume is needed. So within our agency, we'll always put together forecasting of spend and of revenue targets. We also like to forecast the creative requirements to achieve the goals set, because it's not just about spend, product, and sales, it's actually putting creative into that mix. So what we love to do is we love to work on a creative scorecard. So say we've got a brand that's coming to us and they're spending 100,000 a month and their target CPA is £40 a month, and applying this to say health and wellness, we're not going to include upper funnel spend. So it is a direct to consumer play at the moment for this brand. And then we're currently only testing 29 creatives a month. So our tool will actually recommend that the brand is testing 175 creatives based on 100K of spend and £40 CPA. And this isn't 175 iterations on a hook. This is individual concepts that we're running across the account. And then we like to break it down very clearly by format. So out of that 175, 53 should be UGC video, 18 should be hi-fi, high production brand videos, 69 premium statics, 23 UGC stills. So what we like to do there is get our UGC creators not just to shoot video, but to also shoot statics that we can then make some more native overlays with that work really, really well right now. And then 12 motion ads within that plan. So this brand needs to be testing 146 more creatives to hit their target. We have it very clearly defined in terms of what needs to be produced. We can work with brand teams. We can also work with third-party agencies in terms of how we distribute the work. But it's our goal as the agency provider to very, very clearly define how much creative is needed to hit those revenue goals based on the spend that we need to invest within the business. Okay, and now we're actually going to take it up a level. So we're not just going to rely on the platform and Shopify for the data. We want to start to leverage profit data into the business. So what we have here is one of the tools that we love within the business. It's profit metrics. So what we can actually see with profit metrics is not just the gross numbers, but actually we can get closer to net profit and contribution margin. So all of this money that we've invested into the marketing platforms, how many orders has this generated? Once we have the orders and the revenue, we can then look at the shipping revenue that we've generated. Then we start to look at our cost base. So our product costs, our shipping costs, our payment costs, our pick and pack costs, all of our order expenses. We can then subtract our media investment, and what we end up with is an overview of contribution margin once we've removed the fixed costs. And this is where it starts to get really, really interesting, because one of the common pitfalls with businesses is that they generally will apply a catch-all number to performance. So typically the scenario happens that brands will work with an agency will ask, okay, what is the North Star metric? And after a bit of backwards and forwards, there will be a blended ROAS that is given out. So this can be 10x, it can be a 5x, and it's broadly applied across all sales. But there's certain differentiators that we need to look at. So one of the examples that is really recent with one of the brands we work with, when we started to look at the orders, so we looked at this brand that ship in multiple countries. And when we started to look at their shipping into Europe, what we started to actually see was that when we look at their shipping costs, you can see that their costs of shipping in Europe was 211 Norwegian kroner. And when we look at the costs that we were charging for shipping under the shipping threshold, so we're giving shipping away at just shy of £100. And on those orders where we are making people pay because they're under the threshold, the brand is actually subsidizing 100 Norwegian kroner of that 211 kroner, which means that we've already given away a decent chunk of margin just to our shipping providers. And then when we start to dig into the products that typically were below that threshold of £100 that we were going for, what we started to actually see was that a lot of those orders were lower value products that were also on sale. So 50% had already been removed from the margin as a point of discount. We also have 100 Norwegian kroner that we're subsidizing for shipping, which made it impossible for the brand to be profitable. So if we look at an order like this one here, where the customer has bought 2 items that are on sale, we can see that the shipping cost is deducted. The amount paid is just under 400 Norwegian kroner. And the payment fees, the picking and pack costs mean that before we've even paid for our ad spend, the gross profit on this order was minus 17. Now, assuming that this is a 400 Norwegian kroner order, and we actually think in platform that we are running at, say, a 4x, just for easy math, we've paid an extra 100 for acquisition, believing that we're getting a 4 times return on that amount. But actually, once we've been through and looked at the gross profit, the shipping costs, the VAT, what we've actually done is we've run at a minus 120 Norwegian kroner on this order. So very quickly, what we can see is that these are not products that are actually viable via meta advertising. And what we need to do is we need to exclude them from our dynamic product ads. We need to ensure that when we're advertising the category, we're also looking at the overall profitability of the category rather than the platform performance, to ensure that the business is actually making money on the back end. This is a really useful tool that we're using. We're able to then pass that profit data forwards and backwards between Meta and Google to ensure that the brands that we're working with are scaling profitably. So there it is. It's not that these brands that you've seen today were scaling too fast or that they didn't see good numbers in the platform. It's that they scaled on numbers that were secretly luring them into the wrong decisions. So before you touch your budget, sort your data out, check your true new customer ROAS, keep your creative pipeline full, and work back from your real contribution margin. Run those through yourself, and I'm sure that you'll start to see that scaling stops being a gamble and it starts to become mathematics and something that you can rely on. Now, if this sounds like too much work, or you'd rather the experts come in and identify where it is that you're leaking profit within your paid media campaigns, then you can always just book a call in with our team. We do this day in, day out for brands of a similar size to yours and those that are much bigger. We understand the pitfalls that they fall into. We understand what good looks like, so we're very quick to point out where you can make those improvements. And this isn't just about the ad account. This is about all of the economics that go into running an e-commerce business. And whether you decide to book a call or not, make sure to go and watch the next video that I've put out. It's my full creative testing framework, the exact structures that I use to feed winners into the accounts to help them to scale without burning the ad account. I'll link it right here, and don't forget to subscribe to make sure that the next video that I put out finds you, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.